Cheikh is an applied mathematician and the co-founder and CEO of Sabr Research. Prior to his role at Sabr Research, Brother Cheikh was a senior quantitative researcher at Five Rings Capital, a leading Wall Street proprietary trading firm, where he designed mathematical models for systematic investing. He holds 2 master's degrees in applied mathematics and financial mathematics from Ecole Polytech and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, respectfully. Cheikh is also the president of Taranja Math, a nonprofit organization committed to advancing mathematics, education, and talent development in Senegal. Please welcome with me our good brother.
How does that work? All right. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our talk. So I'm Cheikh, one of the founding partners of Sabr Investment Technologies, and I have my other co-founder, Mehdi, over there. So we have, I guess, an interesting background because we are both mathematicians, and our passion is about data-driven investing. So how do you make investing data-driven, basically, right? So investing is very broad. You have people making investment decisions based on their intuition. But for ourselves, our passion is using AI systems to automate all of that. So that's why we wake up every day. That's, I think, a very interesting problem to solve. And that's something called quant finance, right? Even though there is like a caveat over there, because quant is misunderstood by many people, so I'm going to go over that as well. But also there is a concept we call quant ethic, which is basically at the intersection of quant and ethics. And ethics is actually Sharia in this case, but I'm going to go over it. So to understand quant ethic, we have to look at 2 things. So the very first thing is obviously Sharia compliance, right? So we have 2 things, 2 dimensions. So Sharia compliance is something very common here, like everyone understands it, right? So you have Islamic mutual funds, ETFs that are well known to be Sharia compliant. And these funds are driven by ethics. Their customers are faith-based investors. And in the other side, in the other dimensions, is what we call fully quant firms. So these firms are essentially technologically sophisticated. So what it means is these firms basically employ mathematicians, scientists to design programs, models to essentially automate investing, right? So this is what I want to look at, these 2 dimensions. And we believe actually there is actually something unexplored at the intersection, what we call quant ethic. So we think this is actually a big market opportunity, and that's the concept we call quant ethic, which is what does it mean to be a fully technologically driven fund that also respects Sharia compliance, so ethics, essentially. So this is going to be the premise of our talk today. So to understand why this niche exists, because many people are surprised, right? Like, there is no quant firm out there that is Sharia compliant. So to understand this, let's look at the historical aspect of quant investing to understand where this comes from, essentially. So in the quant finance world, everyone agrees that the father of this field is a French mathematician called Louis Bachelier. So Louis Bachelier, actually, so I think he was living in the early 20th century, in the 1900s. And he wrote a thesis called Théorie de la spéculation, which is speculation theory. So the idea is, you know, obviously back then, trading markets existed. So he wanted to know how to use math to model prices, right? So he wrote actually a PhD on this. So this mathematician is known to be the very first scientist to actually put his interest in the markets to model the prices. The next person who is more closer in time is Ed Thorp. So Ed Thorp is very funny because he was a physics a physics scientist in UCLA. And he said in his book, that I just want to make money, but I don't have any. So let me go to Vegas, like it's a trip from LA to Vegas. And he said that essentially maybe there is a way to model games to have an advantage to the player I'm playing against. And he designed a system that helped him to actually make money while playing in Vegas. And he then applied that to the financial markets. He created a fund in the 60s that was very successful. The third one is obviously Jim Simons. I guess many people know Jim Simons because in the finance world, like he's known as, I guess, a math wizard. And so Jim Simons was a pure mathematician, so not even applied mathematician. So if you're a mathematician, you would see that pure mathematicians are even misunderstood amongst the applied mathematicians because they usually design theories that don't even have an application in the next 10, 50 years, And so he assembled a team of mathematicians to basically build a fund that he called Medallion Fund. And he was able to achieve extraordinary, even unbelievable returns. Like to give you an example, I think he had a hire, mathematicians who came to his fund, and that guy basically spent 6 months to see where is this money coming from, because he thought that Jim Simons was actually stealing. So that's very interesting, right? Even the mathematicians sometimes don't believe in the output of their models. And then you have David Shaw. So David Shaw is a mathematician. I think he was a computer scientist. He was a professor at Columbia University. And he convinced a rich billionaire to basically fund his venture, to build a fund that's basically using computer science theory mathematics to trade stocks and other securities. And he built what is called D. Shaw & Co., which is a very successful firm. So it's well known in Wall Street as well. And then in the 2000s, you have the big data era. Essentially, you have funds that were created by scientists, mathematicians to make sense of the large amount of data to basically make investment decisions. And you have two examples that are well known. You have World Quant and 2 Sigma, which basically hire mathematicians, computer scientists, to design programs to build this. So when you look at this timeline, what do you notice, right? So none of them are Muslims, right? They are all mathematicians from the US. So these people, they design quant finance with no goal of achieving ethics or Sharia compliance. So people think that to build something that's quantitatively sophisticated and Sharia compliance, it's just about using their methods and putting a Sharia framework, but it doesn't work like that, because the father of this industry, for example, Louis Bachelier, he literally said in his thesis, théorie de la spéculation. So he sees finance as speculation. And as Muslims, we have a problem with that, right? This is not speculation. So that's basically the first thing to understand. So Ed Thorpe as well, he wrote a book which was about beating the dealer. So he sees the market as a poker game, essentially. And if you're a quant in Wall Street, you would see that the quants, their hobby is playing poker. So they see finance as a poker game, essentially. So this is very interesting to understand, first of all. You have an article that was published actually in, I believe, August by The Economics, which says gambling or investing. In America, the line is increasingly blurred. And actually, quants see, again, finance as gambling. It's as simple as that. So these are the reasons why it's not aligned with Sharia compliance. So first of all, quants, what they try to do is they try to chase quick gains. So they focus on short-term profits. So they design programs that essentially make quick gains regardless of what they are trading or investing on. The second thing is obviously they see finance as speculation. They don't care about the underlying. They don't care about what it means. And the third thing, there is obviously no ethical lens. So quants essentially They want to maximize money. That's it. It's as simple as that. They don't care about anything else. Just making money, and that's it. And obviously, you would agree that this is not okay with us as Muslim. Now, let's just look at how these quant firms make money. Because if you understand their systems, how they make money, then you would see why it's hard to actually be Sharia compliant in quant. So essentially, quants, they want to make money without taking risk, right? So what they would do, they would take positions, they would short or hedge these positions, and then they would use leverage to boost these returns. So that's why you would have, for example, a firm like Citadel having a 20% annualized return with a 7x leverage. So the actual return is 3%. But they're designing actually strategies that have no risk, and so they're borrowing money to basically provide attractive returns to their customers. Obviously, this is not Sharia compliant. You can't short something you don't have. You can sell something you don't have. And derivatives are also considered non-Sharia compliant. And leverage, obviously, is a big no. You can't use interest in your investment. And as well, fixed income as well. So this is why actually people fail. Actually, that's very interesting because many people fail to understand that this is their business model. If you have to understand their business model. How are these guys making money? Because if you want to be a quant Sharia compliant fund, you can't just replicate their business model. You have to understand how these guys are making money and then see, okay, let's use first principle to actually make something that's aligned with our beliefs. So that's why we think that we like to give the example of, let's say, the first person who tried to build an electrical car, right? When you build an electrical car, you can't just take a regular car and swap the engines. You have to think about the whole design, right? It's just not about swapping the engines and that's it. No, you have to think about, okay, what would the car look like? Everything has to be think from scratch. And that's the same principle we're applying at Sabr Investment Technologies. So basically, to be the first or one of the first quant Sharia compliant fund, we must build new systems, engineer from the ground up, essentially. So that's what we call the first principle thinking. And actually, it's very interesting because you have funds in the past that try to build quant funds that are ESG aligned. But we found out that actually Sharia compliance is a very good application for quant finance because of three things. First of all, Sharia is a very clear framework, right? That existed since the Prophet Muhammad was here, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, actually even before, because Islam was even before the Prophet Muhammad was here, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So a clear framework is important when you build something technical, something technologically oriented, because you can't afford having something that's not clear. And obviously, Sharia compliance is absolute. It's the rule from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the requirements don't change. It's always the same. And finally, the market is big enough because obviously the Muslims are the most growing population amongst the different faiths. And that's why we think that building a quant fund that is Sharia compliant is actually doable because of these things. The market is big enough. The rules are well defined, clear. So it's the best case scenario for building systems, models, having specific rules designed in an absolute way. So now I want to talk about what would be an impact of such a fund, right? So obviously the very first impact is very straightforward. If you build a fund where the models are respecting Sharia compliance, you essentially putting the money into companies that respect Sharia compliance. So that's good because now you are making sure that you are investing in compliant companies. So you're putting the investment in these companies that need them and that respect human beings, respect the environmental stuff as well, because sometimes you have some alignment between ESG and Sharia funds. So this is a very common impact that actually I guess all the Sharia funds have in common. Now I want to talk about the second impact. So this impact is very interesting because that's something we noticed ourselves. So when we launched Sabr, so that was in the summer, we had thousands of people who applied as scientists in our fund. And I want to give like an example. So essentially, when you go to these great universities, MIT, Harvard, whatever, they have financial mathematics program or like computer science programs, and you have Muslims there who wants to go to finance, but they don't trust finance at all. So you would have two cases. You have case one, essentially a Muslim mathematician, scientist, who thinks that there is no other options out there. So that person would go, he or she would go work for a firm like Citadel, Millennium, even though that these firms are 180 from Sharia compliance. They use leverage. All of these things are mentioned earlier because they are in a desperate situation. They think in any way there is no solutions. And the second thing is you have scientists who just don't trust finance, so they would go apply their skills somewhere else. So we think that by building a fund that's Sharia compliant and technologically sound, then you would have people that would love to actually work with us to build this thing. So we see this as a very interesting social impact. For example, I have a friend of mine who is a French-Algerian scientist in Europe. He's a machine learning scientist, very bright person, very bright mind. And he told me personally that you might be the ones reconciling me with finance. And we think that's a very cool impact in people's mind. So yeah, I want you to finish with this line, with this example. And thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please ask them. And this is our website. Please, you can follow or request our white paper. Thank you.